Good morning and thank you very much. It is indeed an honor to be here to talk to you about how people do fall prey to committing electoral offences. The late Kofi Annan once said, "You are never too old to learn and you are never too young to lead." And I'm excited to see the youth across the country over here to learn about electoral offences. Now, since 1992, Ghana has had 7 consecutive elections. And these elections have not gone by without some level of electoral offense or electoral malpractice and violence. And increasingly, we see the upsurge of political vigilante groups. We also see politicians using the youth as pawns to foment electoral offenses and electoral violence in the lead up to elections. So I'm here to talk to you as a sister and also as a journalist. How do the youth fall prey to committing electoral offences? I'm going to answer these with the basic principles of journalism about who they are, what is the motivation for committing an electoral offense, why you commit an electoral offense, and how the youth fall prey into committing electoral offences. So I'll start with the who. And who are those committing these electoral offences? And they include the youth, they include political party groups, vigilante groups, the foot soldiers, and then the political party leaders themselves, as well as the elites in political parties. Now, what kind of youth do they want? They want the youth between the ages of 15 to 35 years. Politicians do know that the youth, you're so strong. Africa's population, about 70% constitutes the youthful population. We've seen how the youth has been used to bring about the Arab Spring, and most recently, the SARS protest in Nigeria. Politicians do know the power of the youth in bringing about social change. Unfortunately, they do not want to use this power of the youth for good, but rather for bad or for evil. Now, the kind of youth they use, they are mostly unemployed without any meaningful employment. Ghanaian youth are available to be recruited by political elites as foot soldiers to work for their own personal interest. And majority of the youth they use have low level of education. Majority of the youth being used have low levels of education or none at all. Majority living in poor neighborhoods or in urban slums. Now, what do? They take part in protests, both pro-government and anti-government protests. So when you hear Abaye protests, they're already there. Kume Prepo, they're already there. Yekumien, they're already there for these protests. They facilitate the registration of minors. They canvass for votes, providing security. Most of the people you see them having macho like my own. Now they also remove and deface party posters of opponents and then engage in post-election violence. After elections, you see them fighting about public facilities like public toilets. I don't know what is actually there for them to gain. Be taking over and toll booths because they want to operate because their government is in power. Now, how are they recruited? They are recruited directly by an executive member of a political party or a party's candidate to assist them attain public office. And in exchange, the youth are promised a change in their lifestyle, an improvement in their living conditions, employment in district assemblies, monetary gifts. They are sometimes given an introductory letter to enable foot soldiers to enjoy selective goods such as job opportunities in security services like the army, the military, prisons, and fire service. And then for some, even though they may not be able to learn how to cook, they are given contracts as school feeding caterers. Now, it's almost like an informal contract between the political elites as well as the youth. So they sign an informal contract that you commit these electoral offenses on my behalf, and then in exchange, I'm going to give you these goodies. So what do? They commit acts such as ballot box theft, ballot stuffing, engaging minors to vote, impersonation, multiple registration, double voting, physical assault, or political intimidation. So the political elite will come and tell you that don't worry, when you go if you are even arrested, I'll get you out. So the motivation is so high for them because they are unemployed. The youth is so disappointed. There are so many unfulfilled electoral promises. One of the major challenges facing the youth of today is unemployment, and it is easy for the youth to fall prey to committing electoral offences when they are not employed. And Youth Party for Soldiers also place a high premium on capturing state power for the political elite. Now, another reason why this is also ongoing because of Ghana's political system. The winner takes it all. When you are into power, the winning party just takes everything. Apart from being a member of parliament, the winner takes all system is dominating Ghana's body politic. And that must change because when one political party wins, the other doesn't, and then he or she feels, nah, I don't have to wait for another 4 years to do something for my country. So I think that's one thing that the winner takes it all logic contributes to electoral violence. And I know Ghana's former president, John Kufuor, tried to change this by appointing some members of the opposition party in his government, but this did not really work. Now, another reason why many of Ghana's youth also engage in political offences is also due to ignorance. When you first time voters, for example, you're so excited to vote that you don't know what goes into voting. You don't know much about the do's and don'ts of electoral offences. You're just excited to just go and vote. So many people do that because they don't know they are committing an offense. For example, during the voter registration exercise, someone registers and maybe the next day he misplaces his card. He doesn't know that he can go to the Electoral Commission, pay 5 cedis to replace his card, but goes the next day to say he's going to vote, he's going to register again. He or she may not know and commits that crime unknowingly. So that's one of the reasons. And then many people also do not know about the rules and regulations about elections. So that's something, lack of knowledge is one of the ways in which the youth also commit electoral offences. Now, in the run-up to the 2012 elections, Dr. Portia Gabor had a press conference and he showed these pictures of minors. You may not be able to see it well, whose pictures came up in the register. At that time, the EC was also helpless because they couldn't prosecute these minors. And in the words of Dr. Portia Gabor, he says, we need evidence to prove that these are minors before we can proceed to court. But he added that it's only when they voluntarily don't go to vote that we can prevent minors from voting. That's a serious thing over here, but it's not the mandate of the Electoral Commission to prosecute these minors. How many people who commit electoral offences have actually been prosecuted in Ghana? Just a few of them. And it makes those who commit these crimes think they have the leeway to go ahead to commit them. So those are one of the things that we need to look forward to. I'm recommending the intensification of voter registration education by the NCCE and political parties themselves, even at the grassroots level. Now, election offences laws, do's and don'ts should be added in the curriculum of basic and senior high school. So before you get to the age of 18, you know exactly what electoral offences are, the do's and don'ts, so that you are adequately prepared from basic level to senior high school. And then prosecution of persons who flout these electoral laws. Now in 20 days, Ghanaians will go to the polls once again. And for the youth over here, I'm asking you, what side of history do you want to be on? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.